party on this one, but welcome to the Porsche 992 GT3 RS. What a vehicle! I think it's safe to say that the 992 GT3 RS is the most aggressive looking and motorsport inspired road going Porsche ever made. This thing is off the scale. A 991 GT3 RS was a pretty hairy thing with a big wing on the back. I remember when 992 GT3 came out and thinking, how on earth are they going to take this to the next level? How are they going to RS it? And I don't think any of us really knew what was coming. This car has been out a while now, but it is full of so many interesting details, and I can't wait to talk you around some of them and take you up the road for a drive. You don't have to be an aerodynamic genius to work out this car has an awful lot of it. It's dominated by it from an aesthetic point of view. Some of it is clear and in plain sight, and some of it isn't. So let's start at the front of the car, just like the Air does. Underneath this splitter are two active aero flaps that will move to help stabilise the front of the car. You've got these little kind of canards at the side to start managing the airflow around the side of the car. And then underneath here isn't a boot like you would find in a normal 911, but some radiators. There's a big opening there, two big nostrils with little aero devices all over it. And that's just the front end. Now I've parked the car on full lock just to kind of help us see inside a little bit. We've got a lovely set of sticky Michelin Cup 2s, but what that does is flick up stones. So on the top of the wing, we've got these two big vents. They're there to get rid of the high pressure buildup that happens in the front wheel well. But then also the airflow management starts down the side of the car. You've got this enormous cutout with this fin just here. But what you find is stones get flicked up onto that plastic. And if I was an owner, that would really annoy me. I'll talk about some of the options on the car, but one of the comments I had yesterday when I took the car out is a lot of these parts here aren't made of carbon fibre. They could be, they'd look cool if they were, but they're not, they're just made of plastic. And one of the reasons behind that is this car is designed as a track weapon, and in that process you may well find that you start to have some damage to some of these parts, and the idea is if they're made of plastic, they'll be cheaper to replace than if they were made of carbon fibre. So air's come out of the wheel well, starts to get directed down the side of the car and heads towards the rear. So I guess two main things to talk about at this end of the car. Firstly, you've got air coming down the side, you've got intakes here that will go into the rear mounted engine, but then it's also all about preparing the air to hit this gigantic wing. There's little fins stuck on the roof of the car, but this active rear wing, when you see one of these in pictures, it looks pretty big. When you see it in real life, it is absolutely ginormous. Big swan neck. It's an active aero device, and the car has DRS mode. So when you're in track mode, there's a button on the steering wheel that will put this into the minimum drag setting for the straights, just like you find in an F1 car. But the unbelievable number is the front aero, all the stuff down the side, and this massive wing produce a total of 860 kilograms of downforce. That is more than you'd find on a McLaren Senna, and they're about as extreme as aero cars go. And this car has a curb weight of about 1,450 kilos, so it puts that into perspective. It is a phenomenal amount of downforce. Now, in this review, I'm only driving this car on the road. You're not really going to see a huge amount of benefit on the road for that kind of downforce, but I don't think this car is really a road car. It's basically a racing car with number plates. I mean, if you're at a car show, it makes a great place to have your coffee or eat your lunch off of. The last bit of aero I haven't mentioned, totally forgot about it to be honest until I walked around the back, is the gigantic diffuser and all the underbody aero as well. But let's talk about engine. Now, like all modern day 911s. I can't actually show you the engine, it's in there somewhere, I promise. It's a 4-litre naturally aspirated flat 6. Now, I'm going to say it's only got 525 horsepower. These cars have never been, each generation, they don't increase the horsepower that much. And actually the torque figure of 465 Newton meters is down a little bit from the previous GT3 RS, but it's not really what this car is all about. What it is all about is the red line of 9,000 RPM and the most sensational 7-speed PDK gearbox. But I think you'll agree the rear view is about as aggressive as a road car is gonna get. Now, this car is in Guards red with its beautiful gold wheels, but it also has something called the Weissach pack. Now, you could argue that talking about the price of this car is a little bit irrelevant, really, because unless you're a very special Porsche customer, you're not going to get a build slot for a new one of these. So then you have to go and look on the used market, and these are still holding the money. In fact, they're still going for overs, maybe not as crazy as they were 6 to 12 months ago, but they're still a very difficult to get hold of thing. But let's have a chat about money anyway. So base price for the GT3 RS is currently £192,600. This car has been spec'd really nicely with some very good options. Big ticket items include, first up, it's got the front lift system, the axle lift, which is just over £2,500, a real must for this car because the front end of the car is particularly low. It's got the upgraded PDLS lighting, which are the lights are the same as I've got on my Spider and on my Macan. It is a brilliant system, well worth the money. And then other things include the ceramic brakes, so PCCBs, Porsche ceramic composite brakes, at £8,141. Now, I would argue, firstly, those are epic things. They stop this car so well. Most people who buy one of these are going to track it, and you really want the ultimate performance. So I think PCCBs are an absolute must. Plus, they do amazing things for your unsprung mass. But the biggest ticket item on this spec list is the Weissach pack at £29,600. Now, what does that give you? Well, it drops the curb weight of one of these by about 15 kilos, and you get lots of extra carbon fibre bits. New bits on the front suspension, new bits on the rear suspension, carbon fibre bits on the interior, a different roof, the lightweight magnesium alloys, which again do amazing things for your unsprung mass. But the most noticeable thing is inside now, the roll cage is in beautiful carbon fibre. It's got like a satin finish on it. It is a total work of art. So the question is £30,000 worth it for the Weissach pack? Well, I guess I'm not really in a position to say whether it is or whether it isn't. My gut feel says most people will probably spec it for resale value. Plus, you also get a Weissach RS sticker on the end plate of the rear spoiler and also embroidered into the headrest. So that's got to be worth 30 grand, surely. The total price of this car on the road, are we ready? £243,163. Ouch. Before we jump inside, let's just take a moment to appreciate the magnesium wheels that I've just mentioned. They are stunning. It's a staggered setup, 20-inch wheel on the front axle, 21-inch on the rear axle. From a tyre point of view, this car is shod with Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tyres. They are N marked, developed specifically for the car. But there's also a Cup 2R available for that ultimate track performance. Now, yesterday when I was driving this car, it was warm and sunny and dry, and these Cup 2s were unbelievable. It's a little bit more damp today, so when we go out for a drive, I'll just have to be a little bit more cautious. But I think with that lovely velvet sidewall, they just look absolutely epic. And I am not a red car fan. I don't like, normally anyway, Porsche Guards red. I've never liked it. It just doesn't float my boat. But this car in this spec, red, gold and black, yes, for the win. On the inside, you really do have to remind yourself that you're in a stripped out, lightweight track day car, because it's really luxurious in here. There's that stunning roll cage I was talking to you about. These seats, they're the same as I've got in my Spider. They are excellent, very familiar layout. It's just 992, 911 in here. There's some really lovely touches. These carbon door handles are stunning. I've had 3 passengers in this car so far, and each of them have gone, oh my God, look at those door handles. They're beautiful. Little kind of canvas tabs to open the door. It's lovely. You'd expect it to be quite bare and basic. If you think about some of the version speciale Ferraris, they've got like no carpets and just, you know, bare naked trim everywhere. This has got race text everywhere. It's got beautiful carbon fibre. It's got race text on the steering wheel. It's a stunning thing. Now, one of the things we do have to have a chat about are these 4 buttons on the steering wheel, because normally when you step up, I sit in my Spider. My Spider's got a really basic and bare steering wheel. These 4 buttons are very, very interesting, but they will take some explaining. Let's start this driving part of the film in normal mode. Now, when you look at this car from the outside, you would think it would be a very intimidating car to drive, and to some extent you'd be correct, because it's a very valuable car and it's clearly got a lot of performance. But ultimately it is just a 911, and they are so approachable, and with all the systems on, it's really a very easy car to drive. However, this car, as I've said already, is really a race car with number plates on it. The ride is very firm. Even though it's got damper settings so you can soften things off, it is a really firm ride, and the steering is so direct. If you drive a normal 992 GT3, they are so pin sharp on the nose, and this I think just takes it to another level. And what that means is it's actually quite a fatiguing car to drive. Couple that with the fact that a lot of the sound deadening's been taken out. You can hear stones flicking up on the underbody. You can hear a lot of road noise. There's a lot of wind noise in the car because of all the aero kicks and flicks and that massive wing at the back. And all in all, that means it's not the most relaxing road car to drive. And often when you see, you know, supercars and performance cars reviewed, people go, oh, could you daily this? Well, the answer to that is yes, of course you can. It's a car. You could daily any car. You could daily a Caterham if you are mad enough. Would I want to daily this? Not a chance. I actually took it to the supermarket last night, and it wasn't too bad getting it in. You're a bit worried about these lovely magnesium alloys and curbing them and that kind of thing. And then you want to find a car park space with nothing around you. But then the problem, when I came out of the shops, I had my shopping with me, and there was nowhere to put the shopping because there's no boot up front. So you either have to put it in the footwell or squeeze it through the roll cage behind me. So it's not a particularly practical car. But there's just no way I'd daily this car. It would just be way, way too much hard work. It would be far more sensible to go for a GT3, I think. So on a day like today where the roads are so damp, normal drive mode and auto change box is your happy place. But I'm not going to drive around like that for the whole of this review, so just rotate the drive mode selector one click, you go up into sport mode. As sport mode does in most cars, that sharpens everything up, and then I'm just going to go into manual override, and then just listen to that click. It is delicious. It's such an engaging noise. It's so much more pronounced than the box in my Spider. I think it's an RS thing, but now we've got a very different feeling car underneath me. I'm going to have to be super careful today because the road surface is very, very slippy. So gutting I didn't film the driving part of this review on Tuesday when I picked the car up, but the steering is super sharp. If you're not fully on it, this car complains a little bit. It starts to kangaroo. If you hit a bump and then your throttle foot kind of moves around, you end up doing a bit of a kangaroo. It's very difficult to drive smoothly sometimes because it just doesn't like driving slowly. It also has race car brakes. These things squeal quite a lot. They're either at slower speeds, they make like a noise, and then they also squeal. I think you need to get them right up to temperature for them to fully operate. And that's no great surprise really, because carbon ceramic brakes do need to be at temperature to operate effectively, but they are still good anchors even when they're cold. But when you're driving through a little village like this, it starts to pick up every bump and every lump in the road. You can hear the stones flicking up. But what you can do is, when you go into sport mode, it by default firms the dampers up. There's a little damper softener there, and I can just soften the dampers up a bit. It's still very firm, but it just smooths things out just a little bit and makes it a little bit more bearable. But you are instantly aware of the utter tour de force of an engine that's behind you. It's just an epic thing. 9,000 RPM red line, and it just wails. It absolutely loves to rev this thing. Get it above 6,000 RPM and it just sings. It's a sensational thing. Now, it's relatively dry just here. Let me demonstrate to you launch control. Are you ready? Holding at 6,500 RPM. 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds. It's just the way it sits there at 6,500 RPM. In most combustion cars, the engine would be detonating itself at that kind of RPM. This is just ready to go at that kind of speed. Epic. Now, even more performance is available to me. Just put it back into manual override. If I go into the drive mode selector and rotate it another time, and I go up into track mode. However, it's not quite as simple as that. Let's talk buttons. Now, I drove this car on track at Silverstone Porsche Experience Centre last year, and when I got in the car, the instructor said, "What would you like to do in the car?" And I said, "What I really want to do is understand if a normal person, not a racing driver, a normal person can really feel what these buttons are doing." And he went, "Sure." And he demonstrated it to me. So first things first, as I've said already, these buttons only come into play in track mode. So most of the time, I think people will be driving this car. You've got the drive mode selector, you've got normal and sport. I think most people will kind of flick between those two. When you go into track mode, these buttons become available. And each one, you push the little button on the inside to go into the settings. So this first button here with the red surround, this is dealing with your dampers. Both front and rear are independently adjustable, and you can adjust them for both compression and rebound. Compression's on the left, rebound's on the right. Now, I'm by no means an expert in this at all, but think about compression as how soft the damper is when it's going down. And you can make adjustments front and rear. Rebound is how much or how quickly it will come back out of compression. So you can start to dial these things in. And what we did at Porsche Experience Centre was we went out in the default setting, and then I came in and we changed the dampers and just softened them up on the front axle by a couple of clicks. And what that did was, when we got to a corner, the front just dived down a little bit and I just got a little bit more front end grip, and it was very, very noticeable. So there's a huge amount of customization just in the damper setting. And I think it's one of these things where if you're not confident or not sure, you just leave them in the default settings. But the kind of people who buy this car are likely to be pretty competent. Maybe they've got a race car, maybe they're used to setting cars up, but it's also a really great way to learn how to do that. The next button, the one with the blue surround, this is now dealing with the differential, and I've got two options to adjust the diff on what's called coast and power. So coast would be on the way into the corner. So when you come in and you lift off, and the way the differential works, and it can just balance the car or help the rotation of the car on the way into the corner. And then power is when you come out of the apex, as soon as you hit the apex and you get on the gas, that's when the differential starts to help you put the power down. And again, you've got settings for both of those. We did that at Porsche Experience Centre. So the first thing we did was soften the front end up, and the front end I just got the car much sharper on the nose, and then we adjusted the diff. And what I found with that is when he put the adjustment on the diff, as I turned in, I could just feel the car pushing itself into the corner, and even I could feel that. So those two settings there, don't get me wrong, it's not the kind of thing, if you don't know what you're doing, you don't want to be playing with those too much. And I'd argue, I don't think this car should ever really been driven in track mode on the road, because it's just too much. But on a track, absolutely. And then the final one here, this is ESC and stability. So here I've got the option for traction control, and I can turn the traction control settings up or down. And then I've got a stability control, or ESC, and I can have that in dynamic, or off or on, so that you can start to play with those. So those three buttons, when I first saw it on the launch of this, when it came out, and that looks like a bit of a gimmick, it so isn't. It's just perfectly aimed at the client that's going to buy this car, that's really going to exploit the car on track. Those buttons will be incredibly important and incredibly useful for them. But for the amateur like me, I just find them fascinating, that something that you'd get, when you set up a race car, you've got it on a road car, and you really can tell the difference. So yeah, for me, the track mode in this car is for the track. Sport is plenty enough. So I've got some positives and negatives. I want to summarise the car. I'm going to start with the negatives first. And the first negatives are the harshness and the attention needed to drive this car. The ride is super firm, the steering is very, very direct. All that means it's a very fatiguing car to drive. You can't relax in it at all. Practicality normally for 911s is a big tick. You've got a big storage space up front. In this, you have none of that. It's just radiators. Your storage is whatever you can get through the roll cage behind me. And don't get me wrong, I know people who've done drive tours in this, you just use squashy bags, and that's all well and good, but it isn't a particularly practical car. The third negative is one I was sat in traffic yesterday. When the car's hot, you kind of get this vision impairment in front, and you're looking out the window and you're thinking there's something wrong with your eyes, and then you realise it's actually the heat haze coming off of the radiators up front. And you can see that sometimes when you're driving along at slower speeds, and you can definitely see it when you are stationary in traffic. To start with, I actually thought this car had PPF on the windscreen, and it was just distorting my vision. And then the final negative, well, it's the race car looks. On the one hand, I absolutely love them, but it is pretty extreme. And when you're driving it around on the road, you do feel a little bit self-conscious, because you're basically driving what looks like a Carrera Cup car. Now, I could probably live with all of those negatives, because the positives, now we're talking. So first positive is the harshness and the attention needed while you're driving. because although it's a negative, it's also a massive positive, because it just makes you feel so alive when you're driving this car. There's not a moment to relax. You're constantly making micro adjustments to the steering. You can feel everything coming through the seat of your pants. You can hear everything, and all the stones flicking up, and the road noise, and the noise from that magnificent flat six. All of that adds to the driving experience. It is a sensational thing. The engine and the gearbox, all hail to a naturally aspirated flat six with a 9,000 RPM redline. It is a simply sensational engine, and the gearbox mated to it, best in the business. It's sharp and it's quick, and it does exactly what you want it to do whenever you want it to do it. It is unbelievable, and therefore the performance this car delivers to you is on another level on the road. I mean, on a track I can only imagine, but on the road it is more than enough times 10. Listen to that noise. So my final impressions are, well, no great surprise. I absolutely love it. If you were to ask me if I would buy one, now there is a very different answer. Because, first up, if I won one on one of these kind of, you know, car giveaway things, I'd be delighted and I'd keep it forever. If you gave me one, I'd be delighted and I'd keep it forever. If I was spending my own money, it is such a specific thing, aimed at such a particular type of driver. I consider myself to be an okay driver, but I don't consider myself to be good enough to exploit everything this car can give me. I am pretty sure if I had a 992 GT3 with a wing, I'd still not be able to exploit all the things that that car could give me. I would feel this car's almost wasted on me, really. I went round the Nürburgring, round the Nordschleife with a chap a couple of years ago in a 992 GT3. He'd raced the N24 5 times. He couldn't get a build slot for one of these. He's the kind of guy who should have one of these because he was a brilliant driver and could really exploit it. For me, it would just be wasted on me. It would be a bar boast. It would be, hey, I've got a GT3 RS, check me out. Standard GT3 would be a much better option, and actually a GT3 touring with room in the back for luggage, a room up front for luggage, and looks that fly under the radar a little bit, now we're talking. But do I think this is a magnificent car? Absolutely. Is it everything I thought it would be? Absolutely. Will I remember my couple of days with this car? Absolutely. Is it frustrating to have these two cyclists in front of me? Absolutely. But you can, when it's safe. Frustration over. So yeah, mega, absolutely mega. Let me know what you think of the GT3 RS. Do you agree with my conclusions? Would you have one yourself? But if you enjoyed that, please give me a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol Ped for plenty more content to come. And I'll see you on the next film. You take care, guys. Drive safe.